Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another YouTube video. So to start with today, I want to say yesterday was a pretty good day in crypto after seeing a few red days. One of the things we've been heavily monitoring here is Bitcoin dominance. Yesterday, Bitcoin dominance actually continued to fall. So if I just take the drawings off and I'll just put it on the daily to show you this, look, we see that although there was that spike up 2 days ago, yesterday Bitcoin dominance continued to fall. The RSI looked like it could. Even though you could argue there's a bullish divergence going on here, I still think that we are in this period where on the larger time frames, like take us to the monthly, for example, it looks like it's that time where it could start picking up momentum to the downside. So taking us back to the hourly, I'm looking for things to move downwards. I was on the 4 hourly actually, sorry. I'm looking for things to continue to move downwards. The discussion that we've had is whether we find resistance at the bottom of this parallel channel or within this white box just after wicking above where the white box was. I'll take the drawings off again just to show you that this is the white box that we had drawn in. We wicked above it. This is the white box we had drawn in. We wicked above it and then we continued down. And so far we've continued down but not yet set a new low. And that's what I'm looking to see if that will continue today. So price action today, Bitcoin is actually down more than alts. That's another way that Bitcoin dominance can go down. I would prefer if alts were up more than Bitcoin because that means that we're having net positive inflows. So today it means that we're having net outflows so far as the large caps and Bitcoin are both down, but Bitcoin is just down more. So what does that mean? What do I think comes next? Well, I've got a bit of a mixed bag. On the 4 hourly, we discussed this yesterday over there on X. We see lower lows coming in for Bitcoin on the 4 hour and higher lows coming in on the RSI, which is a bullish divergence. Now, this move still is pretty bearish in structure. Nothing has yet changed. From the highs, we're still creating, it's almost like a bear flag. This is a bear flag pattern or a descending parallel channel. If we do manage to get a break above this, then we should visit the highs of the channel, which would be range highs at this point. So that's not out of the question. It's just when does that come in, and is the steepness of this this descent increasing? Potentially, I would say that's probably starting to come towards an end if it is decreasing, if the steepness is increasing like that. So the other issue is if we look at liquidity on the hourly for Bitcoin, we do have liquidity at 106 and some building below us at 104. If we zoom out after that, realistically, the main liquidity will be at 129, 130k. So the question remains, do we come down and sweep the 106 liquidity before going up towards 130,000? It's something that I didn't think we were going to do, but as we're pretty close now, like I think it's probably more than likely that we do. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but if we then take us to the daily time frame, most of the liquidity is sitting above us. For Bitcoin, let's get rid of all this. Most of the liquidity is sitting above us. Quite clearly, you can see 125 to 130k-ish really is where the main liquidity sits. And now we're starting to build like orange liquidity up at 141k as well. And there is some up at 152. I am a believer that if we do start to get a break to the upside, we're going to see a push up to those levels probably pretty quickly. And I do think that that is what comes. I just don't know what happens in the short term. And that's basically all I've got to say about Bitcoin today. And now I'm going to talk about XRP, ETH, and some other altcoins here. So let's start with XRP on the liquidity pools. Let's look at XRP's daily liquidity, and then we'll look at the hourly as well. Looking at XRP on the daily, very similar to Bitcoin. What you can see is, although there is a little bit of liquidity below us, some orange here, the main liquidity is above, and one thing that has changed in the last 2 days is we've started to see extra liquidity even forming at 371. This is telling us that people are starting to put leverage on both sides of the trade, but there's way more leverage above us to be taken than there is below. Now, if we look at XRP's daily candle closes yesterday and assess what we think is going on here, let's get on the daily. Positives and negatives. The positive is we actually held all these lows pretty much. These daily closes have been coming in at the same level. We've held the bottom of the range, which was the previous swing high from when we moved up from 55 cent to 270. We've been holding above that on this recent push up. And we have taken back most of the negative price action that occurred on the day when everything started to dump. The negative is we haven't had an engulfing candle, and the volume is still even, or like not quite as much as we want. Another positive is we did get a bullish cross on the RSI, yet not really anything to write home about, and we're still below 50, which is technically bearish. But if we do get some follow through price action today, if Bitcoin dominance continues in the way that I expect, then we could suggest that XRP would continue up from here. So if we look at XRP, as we said, we've looked at the daily liquidity. If we look at the hourly liquidity, is there anything to suggest that we could continue up from here? And that's what we're looking for. I would say yes. We do have the most dense liquidity on the hourly above us at 339 to 340. We haven't moved into these areas of liquidity yet. We're still struggling on the hourly at local range highs. If we start to get a break into the 316, I think it will be quite soon that we reach the 340 level. And then from there, obviously continue higher, and looking at the liquidity on the daily, we would then start to push into that. 340 is obviously here, and just take you back and show you the daily once more. 340 is like here, and we'd be starting to eat into the daily liquidity. And as you can see, when we start to get into these liquidity levels, we do start to eat it pretty quickly. And that's what I expect is coming. I'd say this is wave 1, and then maybe an ABC, and then potentially as for wave 2, and then wave 3 takes us much higher on this move. So that's what I'm looking for there for XRP. If we look at XRP against Bitcoin, XRP against ETH, XRP against Bitcoin is looking like right now it's starting to try and break the same sort of structure that we see against the dollar. Yesterday, however, XRP against Bitcoin has shown a more bullish structure, where what we've done is we've held support, we've then pushed up, and even on the bleeding day, we didn't manage to close below what would be previous resistance, now held as support, which is this area of supply here. We touched on top of that, and then we've had a bullish engulfing candle supported by volume. All these things that I said that I wanted to see against the dollar, we didn't manage to break and hold above this descending trend line. But today, if we have a positive day versus Bitcoin, it would look like we would get that push. Now, this is where it starts to get exciting for XRP, because against Bitcoin, this would suggest that we're probably going to at least the top of the range where the start of this descending trend line occurred. So we'd be looking at least this 0.00003, if that's the right amount of zeros, level against Bitcoin. And then if we start to get a break above there, well, that's when we get up to that, it's the discussion of whether we break it. And if we do start to break that, it's pretty much acted ish in and around this level. It's pretty much been resistance since about 2019. Yes, we do have some more resistance at 3.8 and 4.2. and arguably 3.7, but the main resistance would then be all the way up here. I'm going to put it on the weekly just so we can see this a bit more clearly. The main resistance would then be this area here, which was the area before we had a structure break to the downside, which would be between 6 and 9, 406, 409. So that would be the main area of resistance if we manage to get a break from this range, which is about 113% outperformance to a 200% outperformance versus Bitcoin, something I covered in depth in this week's newsletter. So you can see why people are starting to get pretty bullish on XRP and XRP against Bitcoin. The 3 daily, we have 1 day and 16 hours to close that as well. That could potentially, if we still continue the next day or two of outperformance against Bitcoin, that would be closing above this descending trend line and potentially getting a bullish cross on the RSI. Back to the daily, let's just have a look at the RSI as well. We have crossed bullish and are above the 50, so we're seeing everything we want to see there for XRP against Bitcoin. Now we just have to see if we can get this follow through price action against the dollar, and time will tell. Again, if Bitcoin doesn't dump, or Bitcoin and that relationship with the altcoins is going to tell us what's coming next, in my opinion. So even if Bitcoin does continue to pull back, maybe even to that 106 level, as long as altcoins don't really dump hard, or if they dump less hard than Bitcoin, it's basically telling you that it's go time for altcoins. It just might not feel like that emotionally. So they're the main things I wanted to cover for XRP as well. Let's have a look at XRP ETH. I haven't actually looked at that yet today, so I'm doing that with you right now. One of the things I did actually mention the other day is that we do have a local high here before we continue the downtrend that we did break, and there's nothing too confirmed here. The other thing was that we held the weekly support very nicely, which was previous resistance for the range that we were in for, again, since 2021, the Wyckoff accumulation that I think we've completed. We've come back, we've back tested the top of that range, and hopefully now continuing to go higher. If we look on the daily for XRP against ETH, what we can see is we've bounced out of the oversold area on the RSI. Whether we've broken this specific downtrend on the RSI, I don't know. Okay, it looks like we have. It's not a bad structure for us here for XRP against ETH as well. Again, we are hitting resistance, and then there will be more resistance here at 0.00067. I would like to see us continue to the upside here for a few days, just to try and break above this local swing high, maybe get up to this level, back, and then boom. That sort of structure, something like this maybe, would be like ideal. We break above, we come down here, and then we start to head off up there. That would be looking pretty good. What else have we got to report on? Oh yeah, we have some news that I wanted to report on. So today or yesterday, I don't hold any crypto.com token, any CRO, but they did a deal with Trump Media Group where they said they're planning to buy 6.42 billion in US treasuries. And I saw something along the lines of Trump Social then buying 150 million worth of Crow for the token for Trump Social or something like that. The point of this is that Trump and the US are making deals here with crypto companies after buying 10% of Intel. Intel obviously not being a crypto company, being to do with tech and AI. And now they're making deals with crypto companies. And then Lutnick came out and said if a company needs help, Trump will consider a government stake. And I obviously put Brad Garlinghouse's face there. As we know, he's been in discussion with Trump, or he's at least met Trump for a picture. With Stuart Alderati as well, and Trump will be aware that he's had a lot of unfair challenges in the last few years with the SEC, and Trump seems like a businessman, and Brad Garlinghouse chose to keep Ripple within the US and keep it as a US-based company, and I think that will probably serve him well in the long term. So that's something that I am paying attention to. A lot of people are speculating that it's not good. I don't really give a shit what people speculate. I think that if Ripple did a deal with the US government, whether people liked it or not, it would probably be massively bullish for Ripple and the XRP ledger in the long term. It's the biggest financial economy in the world. If they started to run some sort of financial framework through the XRPL or even through Ripple with RLUSD and or XRP, I think that's going to be fantastic for the future of the digital asset and the digital asset class generally, and that's just complete speculation. So let's see what happens there though. So that's about everything that I've got to report on for you guys today. What we're basically looking for is that we don't see too much of a dump. I'd like to see crypto follow through with yesterday's positive price action. We basically worked our way back up to some areas of resistance. Look, this is for XRP. ETH, similar, not far away again from all-time highs, even though it's felt like pain, like the last day or two. We're just 10% away from setting, or 8.69 away from setting a completely new all-time high. Bitcoin does look a little weak, but as I said, I think is coming towards the end of the move, and whether the end of the move from the lows is another couple of percent down to 106 or not. Like, let's say it does hit the 105.5 or something. That's only 2.85% from the lows, or from here in terms of price action, it's about 4.5%. Whether it does that or not, I don't know. I can also see a bottom coming in here. We've basically started to bounce at previous resistance, now being held as support, or you could argue that from where the structure broke, that's basically exactly where we bounced. So they're what I'm looking at. That's exactly what I've got on my scope, on my radar for today. The other thing is obviously Doge. I think Doge looks quite good here. Again, it's still within a range, so we do need to see follow through price action. But let me show you the 3-day and the daily. I keep clicking the wrong bloody thing. Let me show you the daily first. what we can see for Doge is all our daily closes have come at the same level, and we haven't yet closed lower. So we're basically just ranging for Doge. I think that the price is compressing, and as is the RSI. And I think if we started to get like a bit more of a breakdown on the Bitcoin dominance chart and some alts really started to lead, I think Doge could be one of those alts. If we look on the 3-day as well, it's a similar story. Basically, just we closed on exactly the same level, which is weird, isn't it? About 20.9 cent for 1, 2, 3, 4 days. We've held that exact level, and then even on the closes to the upside, 24 cent exactly. So it's just compressing, in my opinion, here. And we should see, if we break out of this range, this would be the breakout target, which would take us above all the local swing highs, or the local highs of this range. And then because of that, you would then be targeting the next range highs, which would be about 39 to 40 cent. And that's where we could start to see something interesting here. Now, this would be a massively speculative price target, but if we were to say that this is a bull flag, then you could say that the breakout target from wherever it takes us, let's just say here, this is complete hype and speculation, could take us up towards $7 for Doge. Now, that would leave a lot of people in absolute shock. And for that reason, I think it's possible. Yet my price targets are like 110, which is the 1.618 Fibonacci retracement. So if you look at history, though, when we've consolidated for a long time for Doge and then broken out, it's just been an absolute rocket to the upside. So let's see what happens. With that, guys, I haven't got any more to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments section. Please do share it with a friend as well. It's free to sub, and I appreciate it if you do. If you want to trade on any leverage, I'd have a link to MEXC and WEX in the description below. Feel free to use them if you want to, but both non-KYC exchanges. If you don't want to, that's up to you as well. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.